I will begin this story by asking you a question. Are fairies real? The answer may surprise you, so let's visit the legends in Irish mythology about the kingdom of the fairies. In this video, I will take a walk through what is said to be the land of the fairies, Knockma Forest, with the Fairy King's castle on Knockma Hill, and then find out if Castle Hackett is actually haunted. In County Galway, in the wild west of Ireland, just outside the city of Tuam, there is a small forest called Knockma Forest that is said to be the home of the Connaught fairies. Knockma comes from the Irish for a hill of the plains, referring to Knockma Hill. On the very top of this hill, there are 3 cairns. A cairn is a Neolithic passage tomb, an ancient burial site. One of these is said to be Finvara's castle, but more of that in a bit. There are many legends surrounding this particular forest and this particular hill, and these involve fairies and magic. For you to understand a bit more of Irish mythology, there is a strong belief in fairies here, called the Good Folk, who are said to be descendants of an ancient race of gods. After a great battle with humans, they retreated to an underworld of their own, but it is said that they are very much alive there and occasionally cross over to our world. An Irish geologist and archaeologist called George Henry Kinahan, who worked for railway companies and later the National Geological Survey of Ireland, once said about Knockma.
The soft breezes that pass one in an evening in West Galway are called fairy paths. They are said to be due to the flight of a band of the good people on their way to Knockma, near Castle Hackett, on the east of Lough Corrib, which is their great resort in Connaught. A soft hot blast indicates the presence of a good fairy, while a sudden shiver shows that a bad one is near.
The belief is so strong in the Connaught fairies that Evans Wentz, an American anthropologist and author, included in his book, The Fairy Faith of Celtic Countries, the following quote by a man named John Glynn, who was the town clerk of the city of Tuam.
During 1846 and 47, the potato crop in Ireland was a failure, and very much suffering resulted. At the times, the country people in these parts attributed the famine to disturbed conditions in the fairy world. Old Thaddy Steed once told me about the conditions then prevailing. Sure, we couldn't be any other way, and I saw the good people and hundreds besides me saw them fighting in the sky over Knockmar and on towards Galway, and I heard others say they saw the fighting also.
If you have never heard of the good people or the good folk, then you are probably not from Ireland. You would know them as fairies. But note the way the Irish spell fairy, with an E and not with an I. I think this is important to differentiate the Disney interpretation and the Irish mythology version. Irish fairies are not the cute, cuddly little magic dust sprinkling, magic wand waving little creatures we think of when we hear the word. They are somewhere between that, for they can do good, and the nasty trickster types such as leprechauns and even demons. With that out of the way, let's get back to Knockma Hill. You see, legend has it that the king of the Connaught fairies, Finvara, lives here. There is a cairn on top of that hill that is said to be his. But is it? Did he ever live under the hill, as the stories claim? Finvara appears in many Irish tales and legends, mostly in the Fenian cycle in early Irish literature, namely in a book called The Feast of the House of Conan. That book is from around the 15th century, and according to Aidan McCoy, author of A Witch's Guide to Fairy Folk, he is one of the Tuatha De Danann. These are a race of ancient gods that lived on the Emerald Island long before the Milesians invaded. Finvara is, therefore, considered a descendant of the original inhabitants of the island. So who is Finvara exactly? In short, he is the king of the fairies in Western Ireland. However, there is much more to him than that. After the fairies were defeated in the Great Battle of Talty, they decided to live beneath the earth in Ireland. And Finvara, son of Dagda, led them on, becoming their king. They made their home among the roots of the old trees and deep forests, clearing great halls and hidden passageways by which they could travel without being seen. Their realm can only be reached through caves, cracks, sacred springs, or fairy doors. The people of the surface respected them so much that no buildings were built without first asking for their permission. People would offer them presents, and it is said that Finvara would bless them with big harvests. He is said to ride a flaming-eyed horse or a horse made of fire. He's also known for his love of playing games and gambling, and it is said that many people lost their fortunes to Finvara. There are several legends involving Finvara and Nakma, and that is where Castle Hackett ties in with the legends. As the story goes, Finvara actually enjoyed the company of humans, especially pretty young women. He was well known for his weakness, and I can only imagine what his wife Una made of that. Legend has it that when he liked a young girl, he would take her off on his fiery horse to dance the night away in his palace. However, they would always awake safe and sound in their own beds the next morning. Well, almost always. There was a particularly beautiful woman called Lady Etain Kirwan, who lived in the castle with her husband, Lord Kirwan. Finvara decided to take her to his palace, so he is said to have put a magic girdle around her waist that dazed her and kept her prisoner. However, Lord Kirwan, he did not take that lightly, and he wanted his wife back. Her old nanny told him that he had to dig the fairy mound, beginning at the top, and with no help from anyone if he wanted to get her back. And so he did, but it was really hard work. And every time he stopped to rest, the fairies would come and fill the hole with dirt. The nanny then told him to sprinkle the earth with salt and line the hole with burning turf, so the fairies couldn't pass. It seems that Finvara didn't like his progress, fearing he would make it into his palace, and the next morning she was returned to her bed. However, she was still in a trance, and for a year she just slept, until Lord Kirin finally removed the magic girdle, breaking the spell, and waking her up. If you climb up high enough, you can see where he dug. But it seems there is some sort of spell that keeps everyone from locating a door to King Finvara's palace. However, it is said that he still lives in Nakma Hill, surrounded by ancient cairns and fairy mounds. If you made it this far in the video, then a sub to the channel would be magical. Also, please click on that like button to tell me you enjoyed it, and leave a comment. These are the best ways to help the channel grow. Okay, now back to the video. A short distance from the car park are the ruins of Castle Hackett. This fortified tower house was built in the 13th century by the Hackett family, who abandoned it later, and it sat vacant until the 15th century when the local Kirwan tribe decided to settle into the house. They later decided to abandon the castle in the 18th century when they built Castle Hackett House, a more modern and comfortable home than their drafty old castle. The castle and house deserve their own videos, so I won't get into much detail here. The author W.B. Yeats mentioned in his book Fairy and Folk Tales of the Irish Peasantry that one of the original Hacketts was a fairy. Maybe that is why the castle is still haunted by fairies. When you first enter the forest trail, it looks quite normal and ordinary, with a well-kept path leading out of the parking lot. Now, as you go deeper into the forest, the mood turns darker. At least for me. At a certain point, the forest was eerily quiet, so quiet it felt like I was in another world. I didn't hear so much as a bird chirp or the wind in the trees. I went past several fairy doors, but at one specific point, I actually felt as if I were being watched. But there was nobody there. I was all alone. Maybe it was my imagination, but I can't shake the feeling that I was not alone there. The fact that I went during the week and there were very few people there didn't help at all. Strangest of all is that my phone just died. I thought I had plenty of charge, but as I was going back down through the forest, it just died. So, to answer the question I asked at the beginning of the video, are fairies real? I have two answers for you. In my opinion, there is something there. It might be my imagination, but I am usually more skeptical than a believer, so take that as you want. My second answer is that the Irish people certainly believe they are, so it's hard to say that so many people who have reported strange occurrences and said to have witnessed unusual things are all wrong. With that, I would say they are real. Maybe just not in the same way we are, but real nonetheless. For more Irish history, landmarks, and explorations, check out the playlists on my channel and keep on watching. The more you watch, the more you will see my content in your feed. Now, If you want to hear more Irish legends about fairies, then watch the video on Keshcorn Caves next. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you over there.